Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another topic on our finance chapter. Today, we're going to be talking about simple and compound interest. Now, the first part is going to be all on simple interest. And we're going to look at simple interest, which is what we call the most basic type of interest. I like the name, simple interest. Now, if you look down here, I'm going to scroll a little bit. Here's your formula, and this might be familiar to some of you because I know it gets used in various courses and various topics. But how you find the interest is you take the principal. Now, the principal is the amount that you're borrowing times the rate times the time. And so in short, we usually say I equals PRT. Very simple to remember. So down here, like I said, the principal is the amount of money that you borrow. The rate is how much, it's the interest rate, right? The interest, because you have to pay interest when you have a loan. And so this gives it to you as an interest rate. And when we put it into the formula, as a reminder from the previous section that we talked about, the rate is usually given to you as a percent. If you went online and searched simple interest rates, current, you'll see it as a percent. But when we apply it into the formula, remember we have to write it as a decimal. And then time. It's always the length of the loan expressed in years. Now, this is very important. When I say in years, what's going to happen is you're going to be told that you're borrowing a loan for a certain amount of time. And the loan could be for 5 days. It could be for 3 months. It could be for 5 years. If you're given it to in terms of 5 years, then there's nothing you need to do with the formula because it's already in years, which is what it says right here, expressed in years. However, if I want to express it in years, but I'm not giving it to in terms of years, I need to change that. And we're going to do a couple examples so you can see what I mean by what I'm saying here. So let's start right here into an example here. Example 1. Sherry needs to borrow $6,200 to replace the air conditioner in her home. From her credit union, Sherry obtains a 30-month loan with an annual simple interest rate of 5.75%. All right. And now it says to calculate the simple interest she is charged on the loan. Now, going back into your notes, we had just talked that simple interest is I equals PRT. What we want to do is break it down. What is our principal? So we have to look back. That's how much she's borrowing. We can see right here, it's $6,200 times the rate. Now the rate over here is 5.75%, which we need to change into a decimal. Now from the last section, we talked about how to change a percent into a decimal. Remember that we are just dividing the number by 100. That means that our rate is 0.0575. Now I'll go back and plug that into the formula. So the rate just became 0.0575, and don't forget to do that. It's a very common error I find. And then time. Now here, time is in 30 months. But remember we said in the formula, time needs to be in terms of years. Well, how many months are there in a year? 12, right? So to turn this into or express the 30 months into terms of years, you take the number of months the loan is, which is 30, and put it over 12. Now we can calculate. If you are using a basic calculator, what I would suggest first is to do the fraction first, meaning in your calculator, put in 30 divided by 12, click enter, then multiply by the 0.0575 and the 6,200. It will just help you with errors. But if you're just using a basic calculator, I would say do the fraction first. And that just means 30 divided by 12. Now, put all that into your calculator. And because we are talking about money, we are going to round to the nearest penny. So if you go in your calculators, and we're going to round this. This should round to $891, and then the cent part will round to 25 cents. That is how much interest will be paid on the loan. But the second question says, then what is the amount, principal plus interest, she will pay at the end of the 30-month loan? What they're asking is, what is the total amount due? Because think about it, she borrowed $6,200 and she's paying $891.25 in interest. So she's actually not paying back just what she borrowed. She's also paying back the interest. And that would be $7,091.25. Okay, so that was your quick little introduction to simple interest with that example, but I want to do one more example just to make sure we're okay here. So here's the next one. To obtain money for new eyeglasses, Gilbert decides to pawn his trumpet. He borrows $240 and after 30 days gets his trumpet back by paying the pawnbroker $288. What annual rate of interest did Gilbert pay? Notice what it's asking here. It's wanting us to find the annual rate, the interest rate, R. That means we don't know what the interest rate is. Let's go back here. We have that I equals PRT. I always write down my formulas before I jump in and use it. We actually want to find R in this case. Well, that means I must have I, P, and T somewhere. Let's look at what we're given. We're given how many days? So 30 days. So we're good there. That gives us the time. So we have the time. We have the principal, right? He borrowed $240. So that was the principal. So we have that. Okay, so let me just write that down. So the principal is what he got for the trumpet. The time is 30 days or 1 month. So that would be 1 month out of 12, because remember, we said with the formula, time has to be in terms of years. So 30 days would equate to 1/12 of the year, right? 1 month out of 12. But then we still need to figure out what I is. It's the interest. So let's go back to the problem. It says here, and I'll put this in red, he borrowed $240, but he paid $288 to get it back. So think about that. What was the interest? Well, the interest is what he paid back for the loan minus the principal of the loan. The interest here then is $48 because that is how much he borrowed in interest or paid back in interest. Now we can go to our problem. So here, I equals PRT. So just kind of so you know, and I'll just put this in a note in case you're taking notes. Interest. If we're trying to find another variable, and the interest is always going to be the total amount minus the principal. Okay, so when you want to find the interest, take the total amount minus the principal when we're trying to find another variable. All right, so now we're good. We have 48 equals 240 times R. Remember, we don't know the interest rate, times time. Again, if you're using a basic calculator, I would suggest, just to make things easier on you, take 1 divided by 12 first, get that answer. Then multiply that by the 240. Okay, so always do the fraction first. So if I take 240 divided by times 1/12, or it's the same thing as taking 240 divided by 12. Either way, you should get the same answer. But that comes out to be 20, but then we still have the R. Now, we're going back to kind of solving an equation. Remember, if you have a variable a number in front of the variable and you need to solve for R, then we need to divide both sides by the number that's in front of the variable. So I'm going to divide both sides by 20. So take 48 divided by 20. R equals 2.4. Let's pause for a second. Remember earlier, I was saying interest rate, usually we express it as a percent, right? This is the decimal form. When we're working inside the equation, this is still the decimal form. So to go backwards, in other words, to write this now as a percent, instead of dividing by 100, we're going to multiply by 100. The percent is 240%. So that would be the interest rate for this particular loan. All right, so just don't forget, when you're solving for R in the equation, at the end, they want it as an interest, as a percent. Make sure you multiply by 100 at the end. That's it for simple interest. Now we're going to take some time here with